I don't know how to preface this video. Oftentimes I find that with certain topics I want to make videos on, I don't have much to say about them before jumping straight in, and that's the case with today's game, Into the Gloom. I don't remember where I heard about the game, when I bought it, what made me want to get it, anything like that. I'm not even familiar with the developer or publisher. I may have just stumbled upon the game, but I really can't say for sure. It's kind of fitting the more I think about it, considering the premise of the game. It follows a boy named Ethan who wakes up in an eerie hospital with no recollection of anything that may have happened to leave him in said hospital. I would classify the game as somewhat of a point-and-click or escape room type game, since you're left having to find items to unlock different gates and doors, while also picking up clues along the way to piece together what's actually going on here, and it has some horror elements. What scares people is mostly a subjective matter from one person to the next, but personally I don't think the game is very scary. One thing I do like about it though is the atmosphere, because it's honestly what creeps me out the most about the game. And hey, I see you going in the comments saying, "But Wisp, creepy and scary are the same thing." Shut up! No they aren't, I make the rules, this is my video, go away. In complete seriousness though, I do feel there is a significant difference between a creepy game and a scary game. A game can be considered horror, such as Resident Evil or in this case Into the Gloom, but it may only have some elements that are actually creepy. Creepy is just a less intense word for it, I suppose. As I was saying, other than that, the only thing that could be considered scary are the jump scares. I know this is a very decisive topic, but as for myself, I don't consider jump scares to be scary. I'm sorry, but they're a really cheap tactic to startle rather than actually putting in any thought into making a game genuinely scary. I know that sounds harsh, but I just think it's a dumb cop-out, and unfortunately the game uses this somewhat frequently. It's not like once every room or anything, there are just some moments in the game where something will randomly pop up right in your face with no warning and it'll make a startling sound effect. Look, I know I just said I hate jump scares, but if you're gonna include them in your game anyway, you might as well at least put some thought into building up the fear of a jump scare, rather than just startling the player out of nowhere for no other reason than just because you can. Fortunately though, I feel that as the game progresses, the atmosphere more than makes up for the jump scares. Something I was really hoping for was random noises to be played in areas, and just as I did, the game began playing them constantly, really making me tense up while playing. Here's a quick sample. It can really get you wondering if you're really by yourself at all times, though there is another very distinctive sound that plays when you're being chased. Gosh, just thinking about it gets my stomach curling. I absolutely hate it, but in a good way. It's kind of funny though, because the guy chasing you honestly looks like the Oogie Boogie Man. I love your performance in The Nightmare Before Christmas, Mr. Oogie Boogie. Wait, no, don't kidnap me. Oh, is this what you do with all of your fans? The puzzles in the game are what conflicts me the most. Clearly there's a lot of thought put into them, but I'm not very good with cryptic puzzles. It doesn't help that later in the game there's a puzzle that requires you to be able to tell the time on a certain kind of clock. Like, I don't own that kind of clock. How would you expect me to be able to read this? Sure, you can call me ignorant for not being able to read the time on a certain kind of clock, but requiring knowledge that is not in the game is kinda stupid to me. I really tried to get through most of the puzzles with some trial and error to keep this experience pure, but with stuff like the clock, I had to look up the guide. Then there's this stupid puzzle that took me so much longer than it really should have to complete. What I'm getting at is that the puzzles are a very mixed bag. I like the concepts of most of them, but dropping some more clear hints towards solving the puzzles would have been nice. Now before I continue, I know I put a warning at the beginning of the video, but just in case, if you're easily disturbed, this is the part you'll definitely want to skip. Now I haven't really touched on the story other than how the game begins, but as I said, throughout the game you pick up notes that fill you in on what's going on in each location. The most I was able to gather in my time playing the game and also using the game's about page in-game is that Ethan is stuck in a coma due to a brain tumor. As a result, he found himself stuck in a realm between dreams and the Shadow Realm where many other lost souls go, called the Gloom. These other lost souls found that the way to escape the realm is through suicide, which is why you see several hanging bodies in the hospital and the various other locations. But there was one other lost soul that wasn't quite like the others. Remember the Oogie Boogie man I mentioned earlier? He's a serial killer who was put under arrest and was sentenced to getting a lethal injection. Something went wrong, leading to him falling under a coma, bringing him to the Gloom. He did try to escape at one point in time, but in an attempt to hide some sort of evidence, the authorities dismembered his body, rendering him unable to escape, stuck in the Gloom forever. Over time and through many failed suicide attempts, his appearance got corrupted as well as his sanity, leading to him wanting to seek revenge. And because there's no way he can get revenge on the authorities, he made it his personal goal to capture and torture the lost souls that show up in the Gloom for the rest of eternity, keeping them stuck there with him. Yeah, so there's a lot more to the story than I was expecting for a little indie game like this, and a fairly disturbing one at that. Unfortunately, it seems Mr. Oogie Boogie was successful in capturing some of the souls, as you get to see some of the trapped souls through the game's first and easiest to obtain ending, where you simply get captured by him. The game has 5 different endings, so to me it's currently unclear if the serial killer and Ethan have some sort of relation in the events, or if it's just coincidental that this guy just so happens to be in the Gloom. Either way, I don't want to get into the endings, as I don't want to be the guy to spoil too much of the game for you. It's really something you should experience mostly blind, with as few spoilers as possible, so I do apologize if I spoiled the game for you, but that's Into the Gloom, an eerie and creepy little horror adventure game. I honestly hate the idea of me playing horror games, but this was a fun experience overall, stepping out of my comfort zone to play something different. The concept of the game was much more interesting than I initially expected, and honestly I would love to see a similar game going into more depth on the Gloom and the people who visited it. I know I don't talk about games like this very often, but I felt bad for neglecting it in my Steam libraries for so long, plus it seemed interesting for a different kind of game for me to review. Speaking of which, if you want to see me cover more indie stuff like this, let me know, and I'll leave a link to Into the Gloom in the description if you want to check it out. I'm Wisp, thanks for watching, and don't let the Oogie Boogie Man get you!